The government recently announced legislation to remove all remaining psychoactive substances from sale, which will be introduced to the House next week. The legislation is expected to be passed under urgency and should come into force not very long after. National Poison Centre toxicologist Dr Leo Schep is here to tell us what that might mean. And a very good evening, Dr Schep.
Yeah, good evening.
What do you think of this proposed law change? Under urgency, it's proposed.
I think we were taken by surprise the health effects on New Zealanders taking these newer generations of synthetic cannabinoids over the last 6 months or so, and we were also pleasantly surprised when we were informed. I was informed on Sunday night by a media outlet, rang me up, asked for my opinion, so I had to scramble my brain quickly. And we were delighted to see that bring into place, because these are substances that haven't been tested and is obviously causing an adverse effect on a large number of people in the community.
Do you feel that this law change will help to keep out synthetic drugs, or is it going to have pressures elsewhere?
We're in an interim stage between when the bill came into force in July of last year, and it was supposed to be a few months until the new legislation kicked in, that is to prove that these psychoactive substances are of low risk before they can be put on the market. Unfortunately, what's happened is that interim period has gone longer than everybody anticipated. The adverse effects have also occurred, and the government has responded accordingly. And so, therefore, I think it's a temporary measure until we see the full effects of the bill. I'll be disappointed if the bill doesn't go ahead, because I read on the plane this morning going to Wellington that there was a move from the National Party to ditch it altogether, and that would be sad. I think it's good legislation. Let's see it tested first before we make decisions about removing it.
Moving away from the law to the people concerned, the physical effects of quitting these drugs.
Yep.
What have you seen? What can you
I mean, right across the board, calls the Poison Centre, the coalface, as it were, talking to ED consultants, talking to other allied hospital departments, talking to psych services, looking in the media, seeing in the media also. It's quite clear that people are suffering adverse effects. They're seeing the acute effects, the one-off effects. We're starting to see the long-term exposure. We're starting to see withdrawal effects, and we're starting to see addiction effects. The whole gamut we're seeing at the moment, and they seem to be getting increasingly worse.
And in your opinion, there is no doubt that these are physically addictive substances.
We only have to look at that clip from Palmerston North. We saw that queue on Good Friday coming up to midnight, waiting to get their substances for the following day. I think these are quite addictive. I've talked to people in the psych services, and if somebody has to take that to feel normal, and if they don't take it, they have these adverse effects. I think that's one indice of addiction. Not the only one, and I wouldn't pretend to know it in detail, but I think there is evidence there that it is addictive.
You've said that you expect the ban to create a burden on the system. Elaborate it briefly?
I think there'll be an added burden on the system. Talking again to people in the services, particularly in Auckland, they are well equipped, and there's some very good professional people there, and they'll do it. And they'll do a very good job. But there's going to be a flux of people, increased flux of people, which will put pressure on them to help these people, and particularly that we don't know the full effects of these drugs, we don't know the full effects of the withdrawal from these drugs, and how to treat them.
Dovetailing into that, you are not in support of changing New Zealand cannabis laws.
I don't think. I think the current legislation is relevant. I'm starting to read reports coming out of Denver where doses that people take of THC and different products you can buy almost off the shelf. They're now starting to see adverse effects similar to what we're getting for synthetic cannabinoids, just starting to appear, because people take one, nothing happens, they take another, nothing happens, take another, and by the time they're fourth or fifth, it's time to visit the emergency department. And that's starting to happen in Denver now. So, no, I think the current legislation is fine, and it would be good to see it the way it is.
Dr Leo Schep, thank you so very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated.